I'm honored and humbled to be selected for this award, and I know there's so many that are deserving. I mean, Jill Ippolito was just telling me about her brother who lives in South Sudan working with street children. So to steal a line from the Oscars, I accept this award on behalf of everybody who is not getting it. And when you get an award like that, you realize that they really mean it. I'd like to thank Westmont Admissions for accepting me back in 1984. I mean, honestly, they took a chance on me. I was looking through my files years ago, and I came across my actual application. I don't know why I had it. And I hand wrote it because it was before computers, and I scratched some things out. But then they said, why do you want to go to Westmont? And so I said this. I said, this is not a joke. Okay, deepen my faith, gain in knowledge, have fun. And so those of you who knew me when I was here, I mean, how many of you thought that I'd be standing here getting an award? No. I came here with the intent really to have fun, but to play volleyball and to get better at volleyball, and actually to transfer from Westmont to go play volleyball at a major university. But then things changed, and gradually Westmont's culture and community, changed me and pulled me in directions where I am today. So I wouldn't be the person I am today. I wouldn't have made the career choices that I've made without Westmont and without the community that's here that Alana was talking about. So since I was an 80s guy, I want to quote an 80s song from Depeche Mode. It's called Get the Balance Right. And that's a song of theirs. And Westmont gets the balance right. It hits the sweet spot of rigorous and challenging intellectual discovery, of promoting a genuine spiritual exploration with the goal of equipping and developing people who can function in this world and also live their faith in this world. Professors are encouraging and accessible. The goal at Westmont is to be rational and to use our minds while growing our faith. To use our minds to the fullest and discover God to the fullest. There are many professors who had an influence on me. I'll talk about two, Dr. Tom Schmidt and Dr. Stan Obitz. Margaret, who's here, reminded me last night that we both participated in a month of May program with Dr. Tom Schmidt, and we went to the United Kingdom. We read almost everything by C.S. Lewis and his friends, the Inklings. We discussed literature. We got to hang out with Tom and just talk about theology, literature, laugh, and I'm sure that Dr. Schmidt laughed at me and our good friend Brad Johnson over there. But I never had the opportunity to thank Tom and for guiding my mind and for guiding my vision. The other professor, Dr. Stan Obitz, for some stupid reason, honestly, I thought I would, and I decided to study philosophy. And so in my intro classes, I discovered that I like to argue and discuss thoughts. So I figured, why not major in it? And it made me feel smart, like an intellectual, but I wasn't very good at it, really. But Dr. Obitz figured that out. And on top of that, though, he figured out that I wasn't studying. I was just showing up to class and just getting by blowing stuff. And so he wrote a note on one of my tests. I did poorly. I said, Dave, you clearly didn't study and didn't do the work, but please come and talk to me. And so I went and talked to him and said, listen, if you just do the work, you can get this. And you can actually be good at it. And so he said, just apply yourself and you'll be fine. And from that day forward, I did start trying to do that. So he changed my life. Now, community. Last night, our 30th anniversary, community. Somebody, was it you, Scott, who started singing that saccharine song? Loving means giving, and giving means living. But it's true. We used to sing that in Vespers, and I ended up staying at Westmont. I didn't transfer. I stopped playing volleyball my senior year so I could be with some amazing men. So, sophomore year, a few friends of mine moved off campus, and we had a few parties there, and it was not a place known for Bible study, really. But midway through that year, we were like, maybe we should start a Bible study. So we went after the guitar playing, guys who were singing a lot, and so was Scott and other people, and we said, hey, let's have a Bible study. Let's do this. So we ended up meeting every week while we were in school for 2.5 years. And then we prayed together, we shared together, and we shared our struggles, our joys. Somehow it worked. And to be honest, we never put all of us together. Never say, oh, these guys are all buddies. But it grew, and so we get together twice a year. Our families know each other, and this was true community. Not just to be friends, but to help each other become the men of God that God wanted us to be. And these are lifetime friendships where we know if any of us is in an emergency, a crisis situation, one of the guys or more of the guys will be there. And these men have been there for me in my darkest hours. Several years ago, I had a really significant health issue. So what happens? A bunch of these guys fly out. I was in DC at the time. And I was just sitting there recovering and could barely move and scared to death because I was facing mortality for the first time. And my daughter was 3, my son was 1. And I'll never forget sitting there watching Brad Jones, a pretty big guy. He grabs my son, lifts him up to the ceiling. My son's just giggling and laughing, and everybody's laughing. And I'm like, you know what? If I pass, it's going to be okay. I mean, he's got uncles. They're going to be there for him. Real men, though. Real problems, real faith, real friends. Real community created by Westmont that will and has lasted our lives. Now, my faith development at Westmont also shaped my career decisions. A chapel speaker, Bishop Festo Kavindri, who was the Anglican bishop of Uganda in Kampala. He suffered greatly under Idi Amin, who was the head of Uganda. Bishop Festo spoke at a chapel, and I wasn't exactly excited about my faith at the time, but it struck a chord. Looking back, it was Bishop Festo's conviction, his life experience, and courage that probably broke through to me. Went back and listened to a cassette tape, and it changed my life. I said, okay, I want to be restored again in my relationship with God. Bishop Festo ended his talk by saying, maybe someday I'll see some of you in my country. Fast forward, this group of guy friends decided to go to Uganda right after graduating from Westmont. So we went to help build a new orphanage there from all the parents who had died during the Civil War. We wanted to do something meaningful rather than just travel to Europe. Honestly, I was telling Scott last night, it was either Thailand to go to a leper colony or Uganda, and I was just too scared to go to a leper colony, so I voted for Uganda. So we go, we find out, we go to Nairobi, we land May 1988. We heard that Bishop Festo was in a hospital. So we gather around his bed, his wife is there, and Scott said, well, you told us when you spoke, maybe one day you'll see some of us here. So here we are. He smiled and thanked us. One of us prayed. We left, and we learned he passed away that night. When we were in Uganda, Scott got malaria. Another guy, Bob Needham, got cerebral malaria and almost died. Within the first few hours of landing in Kampala, we were robbed by soldiers. Our first night sleeping, we were going to bed, we lifted up a pillow, Garrett O'Hara found a 6-foot black mamba, which is one of the most deadly snakes in the world. I tell some soldiers who've been in the bush a long time in these stories, and they just laugh. They go, I've never seen a black mamba. But it was not until many years later that I started working on Africa issues. And what a better way as a formation for my career than to go to Uganda, go to Africa with some of my best friends in the world. At Westmont, it gave me a foundation and developed me. So when I needed to go, I was ready. So when I was at Westmont, I was focused on trying to know my calling, my vocation. And through my career, I've never had or felt a voice from the clouds. But I know I always try to do what I thought fit my skill set and my capabilities. And I believe for most of us, God calls us to be stewards of our resources and to be mindful of how to serve God and humanity in the midst of providing or caring for our families. And Westmont instilled in me that in all of our vocations, are service. When I worked on Capitol Hill, I was reminded by the man I worked for, Representative Frank Wolf, that we were in the business of service, public and global service. His favorite Bible verse was, "To much whom is given, much is required." And honestly, Mr. Wolf should have been nominated for the Nobel Prize for Peace, and I was honored to work for him. But it's a good feeling to be nominated and to be given an award by the school. It's like being in a big family and being singled out for doing something special. But what I do, what I've done, what I hope to do, I don't feel like it's special. I feel like I've simply been mindful of the resources and skills that I have, and just tried to do what I think is best with them. And in my work with the Sudan Relief Fund, I have the honor to work with people who I think are really special. I mean, living saints, people who are doing things I couldn't do. They suffer, they have major health problems, they don't know where they're getting their next paycheck. And all this to expand the kingdom of God here and in heaven. Dr. Tom Katina is a surgeon, an American surgeon I work with and support. He lives in a war zone. The past 2 years, he's had cerebral malaria, pneumonia, tuberculosis. Yeah, that's it. He works 18-hour days. When the war broke out, he didn't leave his hospital for 2 years. He didn't go 500 meters outside his compound. Sister Laura, an Italian nun, she doesn't leave the hospital where she works out west, where Ebola originated, called Nzara Hospital in South Sudan. I witnessed a starving baby in a land of plenty the other day, baby Josephine. And these are the people that Sister Lara supports on a daily basis and sees living and dying. She starved to death because she was running away from rebels, and they didn't have any food because she was on the run. By the time she got to the hospital, it was too late to save her because her organs had basically failed. I work with a German Bavarian monk who can't say no to anybody. So he's always handing out food and always handing out money. He's been beaten up almost to death by soldiers at least 2 times. When I try to look forward, I often can't see the way or the path except for a few steps at a time. Looking back, I'm amazed at how God has used my decisions in my life. My great aunt died in Sudan, and frankly, when I was here, I didn't remember that. When I went to Washington, D.C., I didn't know that I'd be intimately involved at the highest levels in the White House and in Capitol Hill in trying to bring peace to Sudan and South Sudan. And little did I know that our time in the bush in Uganda in 1988 with my Westmont buddies would serve as an introduction and a foundation for the work that I'm doing today. So God has a sense of humor in choosing me to be one of his agents. Little did I know that my faith, my foundation, my deepest friends came from this wonderful school located in the hills of Montecito, where I just wanted to have fun, get a degree, get better at volleyball, maybe even learn a little bit about my faith and about God. I'm forever indebted to this school, to this college, for giving me life-sustaining relationships and friendships, for giving me the freedom to explore and own my faith, and for preparing me to use the resources that I have to try to make a difference for his people and for his kingdom. So thank you very much. And